Check 1, 2. What is this? Guard Your Girl Boxing coming with the roughneck business. Welcome back to Guard Your Girl Boxing, the best boxing show on the planet. You already know what it is. It's your man Coltrane. Shout out to the brass. Big Mike, Docs, Ride or Die. Sleepy will be joining me shortly as we do this here Nas and AZ pitch and catch style type of flow. On this here Bernard Hopkins and Chad Dawson light heavyweight supremacy, the week of prediction show. Shout out to BJ Murray, the Volley Boy. It's Guard Your Girl Boxing, baby. This is where we come and bury our ashes at, man. I'm home, man. It's nothing like talking about the sweet science of boxing. GYGB, still rocking the crown. You already know what it is. All right, man. Before we get into the light heavyweight supremacy that's taking place this Saturday night. Yeah, I said it. The light heavyweight supremacy. No disrespect to Jean Pascal. No disrespect to Tavares Cloud. But this fight Saturday night is for the lightweight supremacy in the division. So forget what you heard. This is what it is. Some news real quick. Well, not so much news. I don't care what boxing website you subscribe to, what boxing outlet you get your information from, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. You cannot avoid this one potential fighter, and some people think what he's doing is self-destructive. I like to call it self-productive. You know, what you're doing, what he's doing, and that's no other than Amir Khan. Say what you want about him. You may have your druthers, your disagreements, and the way he's going about doing what he's doing, but what he's doing is very smart, and I'm going to tell you why. He's talking his way into a big fight, and years past, a lot of y'all don't remember, before the internet and all that, fighters got fights by showing up to fighters' press conferences, calling out other fighters. That's how people got their name popping. I mean, granted, you had to be good in the ring when you got there, but he's constantly putting his name out there. You know, he's kind of pulling a Lil Wayne before Lil Wayne became the Lil Wayne that y'all know that he is now by putting out 1,001 songs and 1,500 mixtapes. That's what he's doing. He's putting out mixtapes. He's showing up on everybody's website, mentioning Floyd Mayweather, throwing shade on Tim Bradley. You know, so Amir Khan is, you know, doing what he's supposed to do. And also, I just want to give him some props for taking on Lamont Peterson, who we will have on a radio show, like we always do. Lamont and Barry Hunter will come on Guard Your Girl Boxing radio show. Hopefully, we'll get him on next Monday. But taking on his mandatory, he could have took a cupcake. He's fighting in D.C., and he's taking what I believe is a tough fight with Lamont Peterson. So, again, man, it's good to see fighters taking tough fights, taking mandatories, and, you know, trying to unify the division. Whatever your opinion may be with Amir Khan, you know, at least he's doing it the old school route, the stuff that some of y'all cry and complain about, he's actually doing while fighting his mandatory and trying to unify the division. All right, we all for that. Let's move on to the meat and potatoes, and that's Bad Chad Dawson versus on Bernard the Executioner Hopkins. Right, Sleepy?
Guard Your Girl Boxing. Welcome back. Doing the AZ and Nas thing. It's your boy Sleep. You catching me in the lab. I guess this is where everything goes down. Does everything go down on that couch? I don't know, man. Oh, that's James Brown right there. I feel good. Yeah. Speaking of James Brown, you know, shout out to the legends. You know, there's records where some of your favorite artists, it was about 10 different rap records on one James Brown record as far as sampling. So we're going to go to the legend Bernard Hopkins versus Bad Chad Dawson. And it's a real interesting fight, man, because it seems like it's an indie label release, even though, you know, HBO is supposed to be backing it. It's on pay-per-view. I don't understand why. There's been no build-up. Most people don't even know Bernard's fighting. I said, you know Bernard's fighting? They'd be like, for real? Really? Bernard's fighting? Is he still fighting? You know, the average fan doesn't really know what's going on. And then pay-per-view, if the average fan doesn't know what's going on, then you don't really have any pay-per-view sales. Just like, you know, records. If you can't get the little 14, 13-year-old girl to buy it, then you're not going to really cross that platinum plaque status. But, you know, we got the fight going on this weekend, man, and this was kind of weird with me, man, because early on I was just like, you know, Bernard's going to trash this guy. You know, Chad, you know, he has lapses. and his fighting. You know, he's extremely talented fighter, but it seems something going on mentally where he has these lapses in the ring, and he like he takes time off. He seems to lose concentration. Now, if you look at it on paper, Chad has everything, all the intangibles to beat Bernard. You know what I mean? He just defensively can fight backwards. He can do a lot of different things, but the mental lapses, I was like, Bernard's going to take advantage of it. He's coming off the loss. As far as Chad's coming off the loss, even though he won the fight after that, but I just thought his concentration was wavered. Then when I heard Emmanuel Stewart come into play, I was like, even I didn't like the mixture of Chad and Emmanuel. He's making him fight straight up. Doesn't want him to fight like Sweet Pea. What is that? You know what I'm saying? So Emmanuel kind of ruins fighters at this stage of his career unless you're like a Lennox Lewis clone. You know what I mean? So I had Bernard winning a fairly easy fight until, the build-up of this fight. And it kind of started with, Emmanuel leaving the camp. And I was like, Emmanuel leaving the camp, that's really going to be tragic for Chad. Just switching up this late in the training regimen. Then I started thinking about how people respond when their back is up against the wall. The criticism and all the things that's been going on in Chad's career and the tools that he actually possessed. I started to go, this could be kind of interesting. Then the other thing is, when they had them in the studio and, trying to hype up the fight, and, Chad was like, he was telling Bernard, he just seemed very, very confident as far as the styles, the way they mesh. And he wasn't even being disrespectful. He was like, Bernard actually fumbled some punchlines after he said that. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, So I got this fight being one-sided, turning into a very action-packed fight, that a lot of people think is going to be boring, and I don't think it's going to be boring. Now, I do have Bernard landing a lot of lead right hands, exposing Chad when Chad takes those lapses. But I think for the first time in Chad's career, outside to when he fought Adamak, when he showed that resolve. And I'm not even gonna say that because even when he fought my man from Canada, he had to get in the foxhole there too. So I'm not even gonna say that. And Glenn Carp Johnson. So I'm not even gonna say it's gonna be the first time. But I think this is it for Chad. You know what I'm saying? He loses his fight as a wrap. As far as his popularity, as far as I think people getting behind him in the sport. So you're going to see Chad with his back up against the wall, basically fighting for his life. Now, I got Bernard. This is a weird one for me. This is very weird. I got Bernard winning a split decision. I got him winning a split decision based on some lapses in concentration. I got a very close fight. A very close fight where at times, it's going to look like Chad can win. Then at times it's going to look like Bernard's going to win. Because, Bernard kind of lets his hands go now too. And this is all, my decision at this point is really based on Chad and his history of lack of concentration. But I got Bernard winning a very close decision. It's going to be a split decision, Bernard Hopkins. And then who knows where it goes on from here. But it's not going to kill Chad's career. It's going to warrant a rematch, and we might see a trilogy out of this. You know what I'm saying? It's your boy Sleep. We want to go back to Cold Train, GYGB, baby.
All right, we good. Let me get right into this. You know what I'm saying? So bad Chad Dawson. Slit, dip, chin tuck, rolling with the shoulder, sitting on a toilet. All that fly, athletic, mind-boggling, stuff that just make you go wild if you were a student of the game. Not real exciting for you guys that like knockouts and like phone booth type of fighting, but a guy for like myself that enjoys the beauty of this here thing, the science of this here thing, I was always adored by what Chad Dawson was able to do in the ring. Granted, he had some hiccups, some misfortunes, You know, he lost to Gene Pascal, looked lackluster in Glenn Clark Johnson Part 1, looked lackluster in Antonio Tarver Part 1. But one thing you cannot deny about Bad Chad Dawson is he avenged every fight he looked bad in. He tried to avenge the Gene Pascal fight, which I think is a bad fight for him, stylistically wise. He tried to avenge that fight, but things happened with Bernard, and he kind of had to step aside. And one thing about Chad Dawson, like I always tell people, Chad Dawson got more talent in his pinky finger than a lot of these guys got, like Antonio Tarver, Kelly Paddock, some of the guys that Bernard Hopkins has taken on prior. Bad Chad Dawson has mental lapses in fights. First sign of adversity, and I'm going back to the Gene Pascal fight when Gene Pascal was, you know, offset in his timing and clocking, you know, just being a faster fighter, giving you some pretty decent footwork, and just pretty much not letting Chad get set by, you know, using a jab, you know, throwing lead right hands and some of the punches that Chad liked to throw. You know, he never could get into a rhythm because he was getting clocked with right and left hands all night by Gene Pascal. And, you know, props to Gene Pascal for carrying out a game plan. But I believe Chad is the actual better fighter. But stylistically, Gene Pascal might have just been a bad matchup for Chad Dawson. But Chad Dawson has been wanting this fight with Bernard Hopkins for eons now. This is a guy that Chad's been studying, a guy that Chad believes he can beat. And again, I brought up him avenging fights that he looked bad in. You know, he fought the wrong fight when he fought Glenn Clark Johnson by fighting close counters and trying to throw 6-inch punches, which is not Chad Dawson's game. Chad Dawson got footwork like a welterweight. Chad Dawson, like I said in the opening, he can dip low and sit on the toilet like Sweet Pea Whitaker. I'm not saying he's Sweet Pea, but he can get down and sit on the toilet and squat down and slip punches. This is a 6'2", and this is no hype, but he's 6'2" tall. And for a 6'2" frame guy to be able to do things like a guy my size could do, I mean, that just speaks volumes about the quote-unquote talent that he has. Forget the fight that he had when he was with Emmanuel Stewart, scrap paper. Like, throw that in the shredder. Don't even use that as a measuring stick, because that Chad, that was just a mirage. That was like a ghost. That wasn't even Chad Dawson. And I believe that's one of the reasons why he deaded Emmanuel Stewart from his corner. He basically had him fighting, throwing 1-2s like a robot. And that's not Chad Dawson. If that Chad Dawson shows up on Saturday night, he's getting knocked out. Again, and I'm going to let Sleep chime in here what he has to say. But Bernard, one thing about Bernard, what he does well, and this is something that, you know, you talk about the mental lapses that Chad had in a lot of his previous fights. Bernard weighs on you mentally. Bernard takes your best asset away from you. One thing Bernard does well is he's able to take a jab away from you. And this is something Chad has to be really alarmed, well, hopefully, not just Chad, but his corner, Iceman Scully, who's taken over the chief corner spot in his corner. I mean, they got to be prepared for all Bernard's tricks. Because the one thing Bernard going to do is he's going to take things away from Chad. And again, the A word again, make him have to adjust. And if Chad shows any signs of frustration, the fight's won already. Bernard's won the fight. You know, Bernard grabs him, potential headbutt, maybe accidental, maybe incidental, whatever how you want to call it. But if he happened to headbutt Chad Dawson and Chad start leaking, and, you know, like Sleep say, Chad start pulling his shorts up and got that defeatist look on his face, you know, Chad's going to be in for a long night. Also, Chad is a sucker for a right hand. You know, the great things that he do well, like I say, he rolls with punches nice. He's able to box going backwards pretty good, but he is found with right hands. I mean, a lot of southpaws are, but for Chad to be, you know, talented as he is and has the ability to slip and dip punches, I think he sits and watches too much, and that's to his detriment. He just sits there and look at his opponent. If he does that with Bernard, he's going to get found with right crosses all night. Bernard wants this fight very close, obviously. He wants Chad right here in front of me. A 47-year-old man don't want to have to fight a guy going backwards. And it's all about Chad being able to sustain every inch of that ring. I personally think, and I'm going to go back to the Roy Jones fight, which I cannot erase out of my mind. a 40-something-year-old shot Roy Jones Jr. made Bernard get on his knees and pretend like he was hurting from a rabbit punch. And a lot of that had to do with Roy, and I always tell y'all about this. The great ones know how to fight without throwing punches. You know, great fighters know how to move around without even throwing one punch. And Roy Jones' footwork alone tired Bernard out. In this fight here with Chad Dawson, out of all the guys that Bernard fought, Kelly Pavlik, even Jermaine Teller, the guy he fought, I forget, in between the fight before he took on Roy or before Chad, I forget. But a lot of Bernard fights as of lately, with the exception of Joe Calzaghe and Roy Jones, these guys have been straightforward fighters. None of these guys could fight going backwards. To me, that is the key in this fight. You go back and watch the Glenn Clark Johnson fight when Chad fought him in the second fight. Chad boxed a masterpiece. Wasn't pretty, but again, for you guys that like fireworks and excitement, but he was throwing 6, 7-piece combinations. He was throwing off the lead pivot foot properly, backpedaling properly, you know, circling the ring as he should, you know, keeping his guard. You know, Chad, you know, he fights in a shell at times too, you know, slipping and rolling with punches, and Glenn couldn't find any lanes and any openings. Now, Bernard is not Glenn Clark Johnson. Bernard got a lot of different tricks up his sleeve, like I mentioned earlier. Bernard don't give you the same look twice. Chad has to be ready for that. What I mean by that, Bernard gives you a lot of head move. Bernard does a lot of that. So that frustrates opponents when you try to throw that jab and he's not there to be found with it. So Bernard, you know, once he does all that, he's crashing into you. But Chad, in my opinion, ain't gonna be there for the crashes. Chad can go. He can throw punches moving backwards. Like, Chad has the ability to make an old man look old in this fight. And that's what I see happening. I see bad Chad Dawson. Forget the Gene Pascal fight. Forget all that other stuff. Stylistically. Remember, y'all, the cliche. Styles make fights. Stylistically, Chad is all wrong for Bernard Hopkins. He can do something that none of them other guys can do. He knows how to box going backwards. So when Bernard is trying to lunge and throw that lead right cross, Chad can slip and go backwards and catch and counter Bernard with combination. He can throw 2, 3-piece combinations off the slip. Now, all of them might not land, but it's points being scored. I see this fight early on, Chad dictating the pace of the fight. I see in the middle of the fight, Bernard, you know, perhaps imposing some of his trickery and veteran tactics on Chad Dawson. But in the end, I just think Chad is the younger fighter, the more athletic fighter. Everybody Bernard ever fought that had any type of athleticism, he's had trouble with. That's not an opinion, that's a fact. That's a fact. Joe Calzaghe, Roy Jones Jr., Jermaine Teller. Although he beat Jermaine Teller, he started off slow because the athleticism, the speed, and the power gave Bernard trouble. He had to adjust to it, and by the time he adjusted to it, it was too late, and he got jerked on the scorecards. Again, athleticism, speed, and the ability to box going backwards. I just think Bernard, Chad, everybody talk about the mental state. I think he can win this on sheer talent, this fight. I really do. Bernard is a hometown hero here, and, you know, I love everything he's done for the sport. And I introduce y'all to a lot of things that Bernard does. But in this fight here, I think stylistically he's overmatched. You know, I think a lot of y'all have fallen into this trap from the Gene Pascal trap. And you're going to realize how styles do make fights. Bad Chad Dawson by decision. You heard me?